Hey guys, this evening we are here at Slangkop Lighthouse. You can see this amazing lighthouse behind me. Amazing clouds up in the sky and some nice white water. Maybe a little bit too much, but we'll see what we're going to get. We're going to get out there now. We're going to get hopefully wet up to our knees and not much more. But stay tuned and see what we get up to. The sky is starting to pop a little bit, and if I turn us around you can see there's the lighthouse we're going to be shooting. We're standing out on the rocks now and the ocean is coming in, so just not turning my back too much to the ocean, keeping my eyes on that sea all the time. But it looks like it's going to be a great sunset. I'm excited to show you what we're going to capture.
I hope you enjoyed seeing what I got up to shooting Seascapes at Slangkop Lighthouse. There's a little bit of the behind the scenes of going out, actually getting wet and looking for those leading lines, looking for that water motion. And I'm just going to go through some of the images that I captured while shooting that and showing you the different examples of exposure times and showing you what I looked at in terms of composition and water motion.
If I point it down, you can see we have these really great leading lines coming in here, leading us up into the horizon on that side and pulling us then up, and then we'll come back across with your eye to the lighthouse. And in the sky we have these lines coming in from all the clouds. So that's a little bit of my thought process behind this composition. And then we're doing long exposures. There we go, as you see the waves coming in, and we're obviously shooting that, getting really great stuff there with the long exposures. Look at that. And I'm shooting at the moment at 1 second f11 ISO 100.
Okay, so I've just selected a few photos that I captured while shooting Slangkop Lighthouse, and as you can see on this occasion there was a lot of white water in the foreground, more than normal. Generally you want white water as it really leads your eye, gives you those nice leading lines when shooting long exposures for seascapes. However, on this occasion there was an excessive amount of sea foam and white water, and we had to try and work with that and deal with that as best we could. So you can see, looking at the foreground in this image, and I shot at 1.6 seconds, there's a lot going on. Your eye doesn't really know which way to go, and you don't know how to lead through this photo, and it's very busy, a lot going on, so we want to just try and reduce that busyness a bit. Okay, so what I did first is I increased up to 2 seconds to see if I could reduce some of that busyness. However, you can see going up too much really reduces that detail in the seascapes, so I wasn't able to get that nice detail happening when the waves were coming in. And you can see I went a bit too far at 2 seconds for this composition, and I've lost a lot of that texture and detail in the white water, and again, very difficult to lead your eye or see any of that detail. So I came down now to 1 second. You can see by coming down to 1 second, shooting the same scene, how we're getting a lot more texture and detail in the foreground. And these are simply just raw files that I'm showing you, but you can see if we just pump up the settings a little bit and we just boost some of that contrast, we start to get really nice definition in that water. However, still really busy, so I decided to then push it to the extreme. So I wasn't winning with shooting at the slightly slower shutter speeds, so I thought let's go right up, let's try and go as long as we can and really smooth all this water out in the foreground, and then focus on the rocks that are protruding as our leading lines and get rid of all this busyness in the foreground and focus on the sky. So to do that, I pushed up to 6 seconds, and again I've got this nice leading line of this rock pointing in with the water coming up from the left, and then that cuts across to my lighthouse. However, you can still see at 6 seconds, very muddied, not smooth like we want, so I have to push it even further. And coming up to 10 seconds, we're starting to see the effect I'm looking for. We're starting to see these rocks sticking out from the bottom of the sea foam, and it's starting to smooth over quite nicely. So I came up to, again, to 15 seconds. And you can see as I continually increase the time, it's smoothing out all of this white water and giving us more of this desired effect that we want. And then the last one I went to was I did a 30-second exposure. And you can see now at 30 seconds, really getting that effect that I wanted, that very smooth water. We've lost all that texturedness in the sea foam, and we have this very smooth, glossy effect. And you can see now this is something that I'm looking for. If I just show you now, you can see with the leading lines. If I just take this brush, you can see I've got the lines coming up from over here. We have a line leading us from this point up to that point. We have this line coming across here, and we have these lines with the cloud coming down like that. All of this is leading us up to that horizon line, and then our eye can come across to our focus point up here, which is the lighthouse, and we have these beautiful rocks pointing us to that point, and then our eye can come across. So in terms of balance, I really like the balance for this image, and just a quick few little tweaks and we can really just enhance that. We up our contrast, setting here, but we can quickly just hide that away. There we go. Now we can just come down here and we can just enhance a few settings here. We can enhance the contrast, pull down some of those highlights in the sky, boost a bit of those shadows in the rocks, and then maybe just clarify and texture a bit, just to help us with that smoothing out. So the thing with this photo, we don't have a lot of color going on, so this would be a great example of making a black and white long exposure image. Always great for seascapes, especially if you don't have a lot of color going. One thing you'll notice here is our sky is still very bright, so what I would probably add is just a linear grad filter just on the top here, just to darken that sky tiny bit. Maybe boost a bit of contrast in there. Maybe make it a little bit longer as it comes down to the horizon. There we go, perfect. And then we can just boost our dynamic range, the whites all the way to the top, and then just do our little profile corrections. So there we can see 30 seconds. We've managed to control that texture in our foreground, which was very busy due to all the white foam that was happening. We've smoothed it all out by going super long. You need to be able to read the scene and the water motion and adapt to it. Ideally, I would have liked a really short water motion, like half a second to a second, just to capture that water flowing across the rocks. However, due to the environmental conditions, a lot of sea foam, rough seas, I had to adapt to a longer exposure, still able to make it work and get a completely different result. So it's always good to adapt to your surroundings and to the conditions that are presented. I think this is something that landscape photographers have to do a lot because you don't have control over your environment. So this was just giving you some insights in this video to using different exposure times to try and manage certain elements in order to get a decent photo at the end of the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If anything else you want me to be doing videos on, maybe more on editing or maybe more behind the scenes or things like that, just drop a little comment in the section below and I'll make that video for you guys. Cheers guys.